Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I'm starting the our fourth breed study. This is Shetland, and I have some samples of Shetland wool here that I'm going to be spinning. One reason I have several different samples is that my first exposure to Shetland wool was not positive. My second exposure to Shetland wool was not positive. And I thought, I want to get some different things and not just base my feelings about Shetland on those two experiences or on one bit of fleece. I did order this fleece from, let me see where I got it from real quick here. From funwithfiberpa.com. Funwithfiberpa.com. And it came off of a sheep named Lizzie. And when I got it, it was 4 ounces. 4 ounces of raw wool. After I washed it, it's 2.4 ounces. So there's a lot. I didn't check the percentage, but it's got to be at least 40% lanolin and stuff in this fleece in order for it to come down to 2.4 ounces. Anyway, I ordered this because I'm doing the Shave 'em to Save 'em project. And so I needed to start with 4 ounces of raw wool for that. Or you could start with 4 ounces of roving. And I don't remember where I got this from. I'm sorry about that. But this is off of a Shetland sheep named Crystal. And it is also a Shave 'em to Save 'em wool. And I wanted 2 different, there's a lot of vegetable matter in this roving. Just a ton. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I ordered 6 ounces of this, and this is the last 2 ounces. The other 4 ounces are in the house, and I'm working on trying to spin it. But I wanted to show it to you. So so I ordered some roving. I ordered some fleece. And then these are not part of the Shave 'em to Save 'em project. But it just looked like lovely wool when she was showing it. And so I ordered this little sampler pack so I could get the different colors. And you can see here that we've got this really light gray. So I've got 5 different colors of Shetland fleece here. And that's one of the impressive things about Shetland is there's so many. But anyway, I ordered this little bit of roving. There's 1 ounce of each of these 3 colors. And I got these from the 1764 Shepherdess. And she's at the 1764shepherdess.com. And this feels like it's really nice. It's not as soft maybe as this. I don't know. When we get this carded up, we'll find out. But my first and second attempt at Shetland wool were a terrible, terrible ram fleece that Hannah and I bought, the very first fleece we ever ordered. It was 3 pounds of fleece, but at least 1 pound of that was just pure vegetable matter. So I don't know if Shetland are more prone to have vegetable matter or if that one was just horrible. It also stank really bad. It was a ram fleece. And I have been told that all ram fleeces don't smell that way, but that one smelled terrible. And it was black, which was the one thing we really loved about it. But we barely got any usable fiber out of that. We ended up just throwing most of it away. And my second attempt at getting Shetland fiber to spin was a dark gray, quite a bit darker than this, a dark gray roving that I got. And it was beautiful fiber, and it spun up beautifully, but it was very, very coarse. And it was, it didn't feel good in your hands at all. All of these feel much better than that did. So for a long time, I wouldn't touch Shetland. All these people talking about how much they love Shetland. I was like, you got to be kidding. But now I have some more to try to base things on. I'm going to read some passages directly out of this Fleece and Fiber source book because I think their pages on Shetland are an amazing advertisement for this book. And if you've been thinking about buying this book, buy it. I highly recommend it. When it first came out, it was $35, and I would not spend that on it. I did not. I could not. I didn't have $35 to spend on it. But last time I looked on Amazon, it was $15. And that's what I paid for mine, is $15 on Amazon. It is a huge book, and it's just chock full of information. But there's like 8 or 10 pages on the Shetland sheep. And they have a fascinating story, and it's just really interesting. So I'm going to read you more out of this book on this breed than I probably will ever read again when it comes to just reading directly out of the book, because I think it's a good advertisement for this book, and it was really interesting reading. Let's go back to the beginning here of the stuff on Shetland sheep, and I'm just going to read some of the beginning of it, and then we'll talk a little bit about what they say about it as far as staple links and all that kind of stuff. Shetland is a conservation breed, and it says, the northernmost islands of Britain are the home of and the source of the name for Shetland sheep. The 100-plus islands archipelago, sorry, that butchered that word, is located at a latitude about equal to that of Fairbanks, Alaska, and along with the Orkney Islands to its southwest, forms the break between the North Sea to the east and the Atlantic Ocean to the west. 15 of Shetland's islands, and they said there's 100-plus islands, 15 of the Shetland's islands are inhabited by people. Many more are home to Shetland sheep and ponies. And if you haven't seen, there are amazing videos about the Shetland ponies on YouTube. You need to go look that up. But Shetland sheep have evolved in this harsh island environment for more than 1,000 years. The roots of the breed's origin have been the subject of much study, some debate, and as of yet, no conclusive agreement. Sheep, including types most closely represented today by the Soay and North Ronaldsay breeds, have lived in the vicinity of Shetland for several thousand years. From 2,000 years ago to the present, genes from the Roman-influenced types of sheep moving north from the southern parts of the British Isles have modified many of the northern sheep populations, including the Shetlands, to greater or lesser degrees. About 1,500 years ago, seafaring Scandinavian people brought other sheep from further east to add into the island mix. In addition, economic pressures in favor of either wool or meat production have nudged the gene pool back and forth, most dramatically in the 18th through the 20th centuries. DNA testing should help us unravel the complicated stories that have brought us today's Shetlands, but for the time being, we don't know enough to explain how these sheep got to be the way they are. Despite, or because of all of this shifting about, Shetlands offer fiber lovers the equivalent of a sheepy smorgasbord of wool options, with a wide variety of colors, textures, and styles of fleeces. Because of the variety, there is a whole vocabulary that goes with Shetland sheep and their fiber. There are 11 defined colors which function as identifiable stopping points along a lush natural rainbow, including whites, grays, beiges, morets, and moret is a reddish brown, medium to deep browns, and blacks. The names assigned to the colors have a partial connection to tradition and are partially a delightfully romantic overlay. They include terms like, and I probably will butcher these two, Imsket, Shayla, and Moiget. And on the next page, we will see the 11 classic colors of the Shetland rainbow. In some breeds, grays and light or medium browns occur through a visual blending of dark, black or deep brown, and lighter fibers. In the Shetland, there are true solidly pigmented grays and soft browns. Now, if you look at this fleece, you can see that there is some that is, you know, very white, and then there's some that is gray. But in with that gray, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little bit of black just mixed in there. And I think that's what what they're talking about here when they are talking about this. So, and this is just, you know, one sample of how they're not, you know, there are just solid white Shetland, but this one's definitely not one of those. Although the full color range still exists in the breed, it is threatened. According to our friend Jan Donner, author of the Encyclopedia of Historic and Endangered Livestock and Poultry Breeds, 9 of the rarest colors out of the 11 identified shades totaled just 214 sheep in 1994. That's not very many sheep for each of those shades. Although since that time, more breeders have realized the potential for loss and are breeding Shetlands specifically for color. The animals themselves also have color names based on the patterning of their coats. Listed in the table on 193, and we'll look at that table, but I'm not going to read it all off to you. There are 30 names which, although not entirely traditional or used consistently, offer one way to make sense of a breed with extremely complex color alternatives. The body patterns are not mutually exclusive, meaning you can potentially have a Beersuget Uglet or a Snalet Bicelet. I don't know. I probably totally butchered that too. Oh, I'm just reading what it looks like. Shetland sheep colors could fill a book in their own right. Sometimes Shetland fiber is described as the finest wool grown by any sheep breed in the British Isles, and it can be remarkably fine, as seen in the Shetland lace ring shawls spun from carefully selected locks of neck wool from the finest fleeced sheep. These shawls are so delicate that a large one can be drawn easily through a wedding ring. At other times, the fiber is too coarse for use in next-to-skin garments or baby clothes. We've even heard people refer to Shetland yarn as scratchy, thinking that was true of all of the breed's wool. That I was one of those people at first. I'm hoping this is going to change my mind about Shetland. From the early history of the breed, there have been 2 distinctive types of Shetland fleeces. Kindly, which is fine, soft, and more single-coated and also has well-defined crimp, and Beaver, a coarse style that contains less crimp and more hair. Double-coatedness may be part of the original genetic composition of Shetlands, or it may have been introduced or reinforced by later contributions from other breeds. Okay. I'm trying to keep from getting glare on this, but I want you to see, here are the different colors. There's dark brown, Morit, fawn, moiget, musket, white, light gray, gray, Imscat, Shayla, and black. So those are the 11 classic colors. And it looks like we've got Morit. Yes, we've got Morit. And we've got just gray. And then here we've got white. So we've got 3 of the 11 right here. This one is lighter. I would say it's probably the musket. Well, maybe not. Yeah, musket or moiget, because it's blended into roving, so we can't tell for sure. But it's somewhere in here. It might be considered fawn. But anyway, it's in this middle light browns area. This one is definitely probably light gray. So I've got quite a few, 5 different colors out of the 11, which is pretty cool. Okay, sorry. The ability to shed, some breeds can shed. You don't have to shear them. And it says the ability to shed is present to a greater or lesser degree in different strains of Shetlands, both single and double-coated. True double-coated Shetland fleece has short, fine undercoat and long, hairy outer coat. A transitional double-coated is even and difficult to separate, a mix of fine, short fibers and somewhat longer, coarser fibers. And a single-coated sheep is short, stapled, fine, crimpy wool, fairly even throughout the fleece. This can be more easily processed commercially, but lovely to process by hand. I did have a lock somewhere where I picked this up, and well, let's just pull another one here. Okay, so this has, you can see it's definitely got some hairs in it right there. Let's see if we can, I don't know if I can separate them. But there's that coarser hairs, and then here what's left is your finer, the finer ones. This is pretty soft. These are not terrible, and because I think this one probably, I'm just going to process it all together. I'm not going to try to take off the hairy part because it's really not that much different. But here's, you can see how long this is. This is pretty long. So I get, some of them, it would be easy to do that. But a lot of times Shetland is processed all together, and that's how I'm going to process this, is all together. I would imagine these are kind of that same way. When discussing Shetland wool, it's useful to understand the distinction between wool grown by Shetland breed sheep and wool from Shetland, the Shetland Islands. They are sometimes, but not always, the same. This produces some additional confusion that fiber folk may experience when trying to figure out what Shetland wool is like. Wool from the purebred Shetland breed of sheep may be grown in Shetland or elsewhere. As with other breeds, environment and husbandry strongly influence the wool, and it's not easy to generalize about Shetlands if you are working only from knowledge of wool grown in a particular region. And she says here, for example, all the Shetlands from which we spun samples, they all came from North American sources, and so did these. I'll just say that. These all came from North American sources. They were all basically single-coated, although they did not represent the finest wools available within the breed, and one had some coarser fibers from what was likely the breech area. Okay, ultimately, Shetland wool can provide whatever you need. You just need to know what you're looking for, and if you are working from fleece, how to select with your own goals in mind. If you're choosing yarn that's already been spun, feel the fiber and make samples before deciding what you will use it for. Some Shetland wool, especially the silky feeling variety, will felt very quickly. Those that are matte and more spongy than silky will resist felting. Putting a Shetland sweater in the washer and dryer is a really unfortunate idea unless you want it permanently shrunk. Okay, so here they've got some a weaving sample, a knitting sample, some yarn samples. This was the finest single-coated fleece that they found. And then this says, fleeces on this page are single-coated. Note that the tips of the long-tipped locks are coarser than the rest of the length. This is similar to what I have here, is similar to this. Then they've got some really short ones and some longer ones. I mean, there's just a huge variety. Here's some that are white in part and gray in part, white in part and brown in part. Of course, this one is probably dirt because this is clean, but some of it's still, still gray. And this is kind of like that. You can see, well, now I can't find a piece that's like that, but you can see it's whiter up towards the tips and darker. So it's, they're different. And that's true with every breed. One sheep, the fleece off of one sheep is not going to tell you everything about the breed. But Shetlands are particularly have a lot of variety. The fleece weight is usually in the 2 to 4 pound range, but they can be as much as 5 pounds. It says the yield is usually 65 to 80%, usually on the higher side. And I would think that that means you can use most of the fiber. I'm not sure if they're talking about weight, then this one, it was a really greasy one, because this was only maybe 60% of, I got 60% out of my 4 ounces. The staple length depends on the type of Shetland. Think 2.5 to 4 inches in general. Some Shetlands have a range of 4 to 6 inches, while others are as long as 6 to 10 inches. So in this one, let's just pull out this little bit here. Okay. Let's measure. Well, let's start down here. It works better. If you go, from this end to the very tip of this long piece, it's about 4.5 inches. But most of the wool is down here about 3 inches. So if you had a true 4.5 inch staple, you would get more wool than you get out of this. Now, I'm going to pull some of this. Well, where's the end? Well, let's do this one first. This piece of this roving I got here, this is probably about 3 inches. The lock characteristics: regardless of the style, the fleece is dense with locks that are usually wider at the base and somewhat pointed, so the essential shape is triangular. We definitely saw that in this. Dyeing. Whites are frequently dyed. The natural colors are most often used in their original state, but they can be over-dyed. Fiber preparation and spinning tips. Depending on the characteristic of the fleece, spin from the lock on any type of Shetland fleece, or card on the short fine fleece, comb or flick on the longer fine or medium mixed fleece. Where several types of fiber are present, they may be easy to separate, or they may not be clearly different enough and may need to be spun together, regardless of the type of Shetland fleece. The spinning should be comparatively smooth and easy. The finished yarn will lean toward the feel of its coarsest component or fibers. Well, see, now that's making me want to pull those coarse bits out. But with my hand like it is, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. And I feel like when I'm doing this, I'm also pulling out some softer fibers right here. So I'm going to stick with my original plan to just process the whole thing and not try to separate it. Oh, I was going to look at the staple length. Not sure where the end of the roving is. Well, I didn't really want to take these off. But I want to see if all 3 of these have the same length of staple or not, just for kicks. Okay. So we're going to just pull some out. Okay, so we've got this. Now, because these have been processed, these locks are stretched out, whereas I didn't stretch out the ones that were fresh, This says this is about a 5-inch staple length. So let's just lay it right here. And let's open this one. Whoops. This one smells really sheepy. It smells really good. It smells like lanolin. The gray one, it does too, but not as much as this one. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay, this one is shorter. let's check the white one while we're doing it. Okay, the white one looks like it's kind of in the middle between those. It's almost as long as this one, or maybe it is. So they're pretty long staple lengths for these particular fibers here. So I am going to try to spin all of these. That's a lot of spinning. But I want to see how they're different and how they're the same. And compare them for you. So I don't know if I'll let you watch me spinning some of each one or not. I don't know if you really care to see that, but I might. We'll see. Okay, that didn't go in very well, but anyway. I'm going to set that aside. This is the 30 names of the Shetland colors and patterns. And I'm not going to read all about that. But I did want to talk a little bit about the difference in spinning these different things. These are combed top. These three here. They've been processed, beautifully processed. And they will be easy to spin. And because they're combed top, they'll spin the easiest probably with the worsted prep. I'm going to try a little sample worsted and woolen and decide which way I want to spin each one. But I want to spin it whichever way it spins the easiest, because I feel like that you should give a fiber what it wants and how it wants to be spun. This I'm going to card on the drum carder. And I'm going to test it out, woolen and worsted, and see what I think. This is a roving. It came in a bump, very tightly wound like this, very compacted. I pulled it off, and it's just chock full of vegetable matter. But the vegetable matter is not vegetable matter that comes out easy. Well, that came out pretty easy, actually. But there's always fiber attached to any piece of fiber, vegetable matter I pull out of there, and it sticks to itself. It sticks to me. This is greasy. It's very greasy. And it was, as it went through that machine, the vegetable matter just got packed in and like compressed and felted almost. It's not felted. The fiber's not felted, but it almost feels like it's felted to the vegetable matter. You cannot pull out vegetable matter without pulling out some fleece. And there's just a ton of it. Just every inch. So what I've had to do, I can't just spin it and pull it out as I go. I tried that, and it was so compacted into the fibers themselves that I couldn't pull it off, just pulling it while I'm spinning like I do a lot of fibers. So I'm having to go through and pull out the worst of the vegetable matter through every inch of this thing, and it's taking forever. And if I wasn't so stubborn, I would just throw it away. But I am stubborn, and I'm going to spin 4 ounces of it. This last 2 ounces, I don't know what I'm going to do with. But I'm going to spin 4 ounces of it because I got a sticker for it, and I want to, I want to have it in my book. It does spin beautifully. It's easy to spin. It pulls right out. It spins very nicely. But that's all the oil in it. But this is not lanolin that's in here. You can smell it. It's not lanolin. It smells like machine oil. I don't know what kind of oil it is, but it doesn't smell good. It doesn't smell like a sheep. It smells like metal. So they did that so they could get the roving thin and it would be easy to spin. But in putting all that oil in it and compressing it like they did to get this this roving into a bump, they made it difficult to get the vegetable matter out of it, and it has a lot of vegetable matter in it. These don't look like they have a whole lot. They were processed differently. And that's something you need to look for when you're buying. Both of these came from, from smaller mill. Well, I'm not sure what kind of mill this one came from. This came from a small mill, and I want to support small mills, but I'm not happy with the what it's like trying to get the vegetable matter out of this so that you don't end up with just tons of vegetable matter and everything. Anyway, it does spin easy though. I was afraid it was so compacted in here that it wouldn't even spin nice, but it does. It spins very nice. And after I've washed it, maybe it won't stink like metal. So I'm saving my my thoughts on this Shetland here, and it's purely a prep thing. The issues I have with this is purely a prep thing. It is not the fibers themselves, because I think the fibers themselves are nice. Anyway, that's all I'm going to do right here, and I know that is a lot. Oh, good grief, I can't believe I talked that much. But this is very interesting to me, this sheep breed. So next time you see me, I will be carding this. And then, and maybe you'll get to see some spinning too. So I'll be back with the carder and we'll work on this. Okay, this is a little bit of that Shetland fleece. And I'm picking it and getting ready to card it in the drum carder. And it is cleaning up so nicely and picking into fluff so easily that I think you could just spin it without carding it at all. I'm going to show you how easy it is to pick this. Look at that. These little matted bits, they're not really, they just turn into fluff just that easy. There's where'd it go? That may have fallen out. So there's a piece of vegetable matter I saw there. There's quite a bit of vegetable matter in this little fleece, but I only got 4 ounces of this fleece, but I would have happily, if I'd bought more, I would have been happy. It just turns into beautiful fluff. And I think you could hold it and just spin it like this. I think it will spin smoother if I go ahead and card it. And so I'm going to. But because of how quickly it, separates and makes, smooths itself out and everything when you're trying to pick it, I think that I will probably just run it through the carder twice at the most. Unless I see something when I'm doing it that changes my mind, I'm going to run it through twice. And so I'm going to pause the video again for a minute and switch over, get the drum carder in place. And then we will work on this a little bit. Okay, I'm leaving it, what do you call that? Zoomed in, so you can see better what happens here. I usually have it further out. Okay, something's not working. Okay, let me pause a minute, see if I can figure out what's going on. Okay, my band wasn't wanting it. I think it's stretched, and so it's a little bit looser. I may need to shorten it, but it's what happens when you get a new one. Sometimes they stretch out after you use them a little bit. Now this bat that I'm doing right now is just about half of the, it's just a little over an ounce of the 2 1/4, well, I guess 1 1/4 ounce, something like that. It's not exact. I just split it apart where it looked like it was half. Maybe having to do some repair work. So if this isn't going to work, then I may end up, because I really want to get this done, I may end up spinning one bobbin from a bat and one bobbin from the cloud and plying them together just because. I'm just going to keep it going and put some more over here because I'm afraid if I have to stop it to fluff it. So I worry that it's going to stop on me again. I don't know. Try to keep it more in the middle. There's a piece of vegetable matter. If I see it, I go ahead and take it out. You're not going to catch everything, but each time you move to the next process, it takes out some more, but this is the easiest step to take it out in if you notice it. There's a nippy bit, don't want on there. This is the last little bit of it. We'll take this off and card it again. I need to slow down. Okay. Okay. See if I can. Okay. Okay, here's the first bat. I'm so zoomed in, it's kind of hard to Kind of hard to see, but it looks pretty good. But I'm going to go ahead and do it, run it through again. Split it into 3 pieces and then stretch them out a little bit and run it through again. What I'm doing is just attenuating it like you would if you were going to spin it. And then we're going to just kind of fluff it out. Like that. You can usually, depending on the fiber, you can pack 1.5 to 2 ounces on this drum carder. So this is definitely not packed. And since I don't need the whole thing, I'm going to try to get it to go in the middle. There's a you can see that this already would draft and spin nice. But it'll be even nicer if we do it one more time. I'm going to go slower and let it attenuate itself. The fiber's real good. Up here's a okay, one more bit. Oops. All right, we're going to fluff this out. Okay, I was going too fast. All right. Okay, usually it comes off cleaner the second time than it did the first time. So this is the bat, and I'm going to call that good. And I'm going to pause the video here and see if I can tighten this belt up a little bit and then do the second one. Okay. I spun the 4 ounces of this, and the 4 ounces that I had pulled out as roving, and then by the time I got it all spun up, it was like 3.5 ounces. And the reason for that was because there's a lot of VM in this, and it's very greasy. I talked about this earlier, I think. It's been a few days, so I'm not positive. But the vegetable matter does not want to come out of it. So this piece right here that I've got doesn't have near as much as what was in that. But there was so much in there that it was like every inch I was having to pull out vegetable matter. And we're not just talking a little piece here and there. I mean, solid all the way through it. Because when you're spinning it, it doesn't want to come out as you spin like it does in some fibers. And some of the vegetable matter that I found in it was really huge, and some of it was little matted messes like that. And pieces like this. But if I don't take them out now, I would have to stop about every minute to try and pull it out because it doesn't come out easy while you're spinning. And when you're spinning woolen, your yarn is not as strong as when you spin worsted. And so it's harder to just yank out little bits of vegetable matter while you're spinning. But these seem to be more actually embedded, like felted to the fibers than normal, or than I've spun in the past. Let me say that. I don't know about normal. There's a whole lot out there to decide what's normal. Anyway, I'm going to spin this in just a little bit. This is some of the Shetland that I got. There were 3 different 1 ounce colors. This was the Morit. And then there's also a white and a gray. Now, obviously, these 3 bits came from 3 different fleeces. This one spun up really nice. It was real easy to spin. I'm assuming because they were processed by the same mill that this one will be too, that these will be as well. But I'm going to spin a little bit of them for you just to see, because I like to do a little bit of spinning in each one of these so you can see the difference in spinning the different fibers. Now, I'm going to go ahead and spin a little bit of this, and I'm just going to put it on the beginning of this this one where I'm going to spin something else, and that way I won't waste another bobbin playing with this, but you can see how I spun it. And it's enough different from this. When I get down to here, I'll know it, and I will stop in my plying process. Okay, so let's move these, and we're just going to spin this right here. Okay, now when I spun this, I spun it pretty much worsted. Just like this. Because it was just too messy to spin any other way. So I decided just to give in and spin it kind of like it was prepared to spin, because a roving like this is a woolen. I'm sorry, I think I said worsted a minute ago. It is a woolen prep. So I'm using a woolen spinning technique. The It's called long draw if you haven't watched any spinning before. And this is a supported long draw where you just kind of help moderate the twist with this hand right here. Anyway, I ended up doing about 3.5 ounces of this out of the 4 ounces that I weighed out. I bought 6 ounces, but for the Shave 'em to Save 'em, you only have to use 4 for each project. And 4 was all I wanted to mess with, to be honest, of this. I was really fed up with the pulling all the vegetable matter out. So I've got another like 1.5 ounces. And I will probably end up spinning it at some point because I don't want to be wasteful and not use it, but I was tired of it for right now. And that is how this was spun. And I think it turned into an okay yarn. You'll see it after I wash it. It's definitely got to be washed because it has machine oil all over it from the mill. I've never gotten any fleece that was oiled up like that before. Anyway, we'll see what it turns out to look like once I get the once I get it washed up. And then this, I'll show you what it looks like. It made a really pretty, nice, pretty even yarn. And I spun it kind of a semi-worsted. It was a worsted preparation from combed top. And I spun it in a short forward draw. And I'm going to spin this one the same way. But I didn't smooth it. I just pulled out little bits at a time. So that gave it a little bit more air, but not as much air as if I had spun it woolen. So there's, differences between, what I'm fixing to spin here is the 1764 Shepherdess from her, I bought it off of her website. And the way I do little bits like this is I just fold it in half. And then I grab on each side of that half mark and pull it apart. And that's goes with this one. And then I spin each half by itself. And I'm going to tuck this half back in here. And then I'm going to just go ahead and split this in half. And this is exactly what I did with the brown. And then I just went ahead and split it in half again. I don't normally split it that much, but I thought I would just try it this time. And I liked it, so I'm going to go ahead and spin this that way so I can compare it to the Morit and see how much alike and how different they are. They do feel a little bit different because, they came off different sheet. It's pretty simple. Okay. And this is how I spun the Morit. Just pulled it like this. And normally when you do a worsted, you smooth it and pull and smooth and pull. And I didn't want to do that, so I've got a big mess right there trying to show you that. But anyway, I'm just letting it spin at the width it wants to spin at. And this one right now seems to be wanting to spin a little bit heavier than the Morit did. And the Morit is the name of the color. You probably remember that from when we were talking about it earlier. It has been just a little while for you, but for me it's been, a week almost. So It's sometimes I forget what I've said and what I haven't. And this is definitely spinning up thicker. That's kind of nice. I haven't spun a thicker yarn in a while, so I'm okay with that. There's a piece of vegetable matter. Okay, what I'm going to do now is pull this off and put this with these. And then I'm going to take this I kind of overspun it when I ran it on up in there, so and I'm going to keep it right there so it's ready. Oops. Okay, there we go. You gotta make sure you keep that taut. Okay, and I'm going to take this one off and put another one on for the gray, and we'll see how different it spins from the white. And then I'll finish spinning the white on this one later. I'll put another bobbin on here. One of the nicest things that I did for myself, when I bought this, it came with 6 bobbins, which is a great amount of bobbins anyway. But then I even bought 3 more, so that I have 9 bobbins, which means I have plenty to do, you know, work on 3 projects at a time, which I like going back and forth between projects. Some people don't. They want to finish a project so they don't take the chance on changing the way they spin, you know, the second bobbin or third bobbin or whatever. I don't worry about it too much. So far, it hasn't been an issue for me. And I spin most things pretty much the same, unless they really want to be spun differently. So, okay. This is the gray, and I think it was just called gray. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to do the same thing with it that I did with the white. And I'm going to fold it in half, and then go on each side of where I folded it in half and pull it apart. And I'm going to put this back in the little thing, so I know this is the second half. And I'm going to split this in half. Split this in half, and they're not exact. It doesn't have to be exact. It's more of just making the roving similar so that your spinning technique is similar. You do spin differently off of a fat piece than you do a thin piece. So, okay. Okay, I just want to make sure that the leader is all charged up, because if you don't, you will end up with your twist coming out of this as you put it on and going back up into your leader. And you don't want that. And I'm spinning this one pretty much like I did the white. It does feel a little different. It's a little coarser than the white was, and it's leaving more I don't know if you can see that, but it's leaving a lot more of a halo on the yarn. The white didn't really do that, and the brown didn't do that very much, but the gray is doing quite a bit of that. And I'm not sure why that is, if it's just the fleece or if it's the preparation. I don't know. But that's what this one is. So when they're washed and everything, we will see. Maybe it has more guard hairs in it than the white and the brown did. That's possible, because the guard hairs definitely stand up, don't, twist in as much. So that's probably it. So it is going to make a different yarn from the others. But it's just as easy to spin. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this off, and then I just wanted to kind of be with you while I spun this, so we could talk about the differences and the similarities. And now I'm going to take this bobbin off and put it with all of this. Oops. And we're going to work on, we're going to spin a little bit of the fiber that I just carded up into a bat. And I'm going to spin it woolen, like I did the that greasy roving. Okay. You got to put the thing all back together. Okay. Now I need to see. I knew those other two had been spun. Yeah, this one has two. Okay. Okay, now it's unspinning. It's not what I want. Okay. And here's a bit of the bat. And I think I haven't done this since we've been doing this breed study. And I rarely do with a bat. I rarely just split it and weave straight from the bat. But I'm going to do that with this just because I decided to, I guess. And I'm just going to take a bit like this and spin it. I think I said weave. I meant spin. And I'll split this, so that my pieces will be small. Now this is a little bit bigger, and I'm not going to do it right now for all of it, but I will go through and make it, just draft it just enough to get it kind of similar to this one. And I'll do the same thing with this one. You don't have to diz it. That's what I usually do. You can just strip it and then pre-draft it a little bit. So there's another piece. And this is the piece I'm going to use. It does make a little bit of difference. So I did pre-draft this one a little bit too. There definitely are dark guard hairs in this fiber. So it will probably halo like that other gray is doing. This will be a very, very pale brownish gray. So let's see what we get here. You can see it's got some bits. I could take those off, but that takes a lot more time. Okay. This is not wanting to slide quite as good. Maybe I should have dizzed it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and scoot it over a little bit. There we go. But this is a messier preparation to spin. Because it's roving and not top. That's just the the difference between the two. But that's where you get all the air. If it was all perfectly organized, you wouldn't get the air in it. Okay, and this is what this one's looking like on the whoops, let's see if we can see if we can zoom in a little bit. So that's what this one's looking like. And we're going to, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take it back to here because I'm not sure if I'm going to, what I'm going to spin when I get in the house later. For right now, I'm going to leave it on there though, just in case I decide to spin this first. Because I have 3 more things to spin before I finish this breed study. So, all right. After I get them all spun and washed up, and probably I will have made samples and everything before I come back and talk to you again. Well, here I am with my spun Shetland yarns. I kind of laid them out in order from light to dark. And so you could see the different colors. This one is a very nice creamy white. And both of these are oatmeal, an oatmeal type color, but they are a little different. They're not exactly the same. This one is gray, and this one is brown. It's Morit is what they call it for Shetland. These 3 were all 1 ounce, 1 ounce combed top. And then this one came to me in a roving form. It was a little frustrating as far as that goes because the roving just had a lot of VM in it, and it had oils in it that were not lanolin from the sheep. You probably remember me talking about that. So it took a lot of work to get this cleaned up enough I could spin it without stopping about every 2 seconds to take a piece of vegetable matter out. But it spun up into a really nice, very woolen yarn. I don't think I've ever spun anything that was quite this woolen. And I really like it. I think it was worth the effort. But I don't know that I would want to buy that and do it again. This one is from the fleece that I had. I may have said her name was Lily earlier. I'm not sure, but her name was Lizzie. And this one, I took the fleece and I carded it on the drum carder, and then I just stripped the bat down into pieces and spun it woolen also. It is, you can see it's got a little bit more definition than this one. And I think that's just a difference in the prep. This was a more aligned prep, and it didn't have all the, me picking out all the vegetable matter and stuff, because most of this was clean before I got to spinning it. These were spun, I would call it semi-worsted. They were a top form, which is a worsted form of preparation. But when I spun them in a short forward draw, but I didn't smooth it as I went to grab it again. And that smoothing, as you grab more fiber, smooth and grab and smooth and grab, that is a true worsted spin. So these I would call semi-worsted. They make a very nice yarn though. And I enjoyed spinning all of these. I really did. I like the variety of colors that I've got. This took a lot longer than my other breed studies to do, because there was, so much spinning involved and so much crocheting to get my samples. But it gave me an appreciation for all the differences in Shetland fleece. Even these three, feel different because they came from different sheep. This one is probably the softest. And this one a little bit the more prickly. It's probably got the most prickle factor of any of them, but it's so beautiful. You kind of put up with that, wouldn't you? Anyway, I'm going to move those aside for a minute and bring out my samples. And it's a little bit hard to see in this plastic, but I did, let me put something under this. Hold on a second. Okay, let's see if this is better. I will take them out to look at them individually, but this is a piece of the fleece. And then for the fleece, I did, I've got 3 samples here, because most of the time I'll be spinning from a fleece. That's what I was the most interested in sampling. So I've got a crocheted piece and a woven piece with this, same yarn, and I think it'd be fun to use it both ways. I did just go ahead and tie these off kind of like a fringe and then cut them pretty short. So it's a little bit messier looking, but that was faster and easier to do. And then this is my wraps per inch, and just a little bit sample of the yarn. And this is about 10 to 11 wraps per inch. And I'm not sure. I think that may be a DK weight. I'm not positive. I don't pay that much attention to that, because I haven't done a whole lot of I don't knit, and I haven't done a lot of crocheting to gauge and that kind of stuff. So but I do pay attention somewhat when I'm making my samples of what the wraps per inch are. Now, I didn't do a wraps per inch of these other ones. The roving, I did do a crochet sample and a woven sample of the roving, and it worked out really nice too. It's a little bit, let's see if we can see these next to each other. There's not as much stitch definition in the roving as there is in this one, but it feels nice, and I'm happy with it. So I still haven't decided what kind of project I'm going to do. I'm just putting all of these yarns that I'm making in the breed study together, and then when we get finished, we may over dye them. I'm not sure. or we may just weave them into something or crochet them into something. Okay, these are the 3 top, and they, of course, have really nice stitch definition. They crocheted up really nicely. So I think they would be fun to work with as well. So all in all, I like Shetland as a breed. I enjoyed working with this fiber, and I would be happy to get another fleece, another Shetland fleece, and do this, work with it again. I was trying to see, in this one, the roving, I have, by the time I cleaned out all the VM, I started with 4 ounces and I ended up with 3.4 ounces and 244 yards of 2-ply yarn. With the fleece, I started with 4 ounces of raw fleece, and by the time I did everything to get it to yarn, I ended up with 2.26 ounces of yarn and 116 yards. And that's finished, washed, and everything afterwards. They did shrink up quite a bit, like several inches. The skein shrunk about 4 inches on all of these. Okay, on the Morit, it since it was just top, I just spun it. I got the full ounce, and I got 85 yards of 2-ply yarn. And the gray one, same thing, 1 ounce. The finished yardage on this one is 90. And then the white one, the finished yardage is 75. So I spun them similar, but I just let them spin the way they wanted to spin. And so they didn't spin exactly the same. Plus my yardage is understated. Let me put it that way. When I measure yardage, I take the skein and I stretch it out, just lay it out like this, and then I take a tape measure and I measure from inside here down to inside there, and I just stretch it out enough that the skein is out straight. I don't stretch it as long as it'll stretch. I just barely stretch it enough that I can get from one end to the other. So from inside here to inside here is what I measure. And you've got all this yarn out here that's, so probably there's more yardage in all of my skeins than I say there is. Oh dear, that came out. And so we'll see. I've got I'm doing the Kickstarter for Dreaming Robots is yarn counter. So when I get that, we'll find out how off my measurements are. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed learning about Shetland sheep as much as I enjoyed spinning it. God bless you. And next we're going to do Jacob. That'll be fun. Bye-bye.